Hello, everybody. Today I'm going to address one of the biggest concerns and questions that I get, that gets asked of me quite often, and it's like probably number one. How can you afford that much meat? And now I'm going to give you a little perspective coming from my side and explain a little bit about how I can afford to eat this much meat. As we know, as you may know, I am an animal-based, pretty much carnivore. If you want to get technical, obligate hypercarnivore. 70% of my diet is meat, animal products. I do eat dairy. I'm able to do it. There's context, nuance with everything. And welcome back to the channel. This is Anthony Stewart. This is Food for Thought. We are questioning everything they've ever said. And today, this question comes up all the time. How can you afford to eat that much meat? Now I'm gonna shed some light on that because if you've been following me, and I just want to apologize. I haven't been around because I've been busy at work. I don't think I had a day off in June, so I'm back now. I'm gonna try and get these videos going a little bit more often, once a week ish, for the most part. And I've got some big announcements to make. I've got a couple things that are going to be drastically changing in my life. I'm taking it the next step. I want to be out in nature. I want to be a little bit more natural, get close to my food, get close to the, and that'll be another video. For today, how can you afford it? Well, if you've been following me at all, you know that I'm doing something every month. It has to do with spirituality and this, and I repeat, has nothing to do with health. I mean, obviously it ties into it, but it's not because of any specific reason except for I'm doing sort of an experiment, 3 days a week, fasting, and not consuming animals. And there's a reason. If you want to know why, you can message me and I'll tell you. But that we're not going to get into that. The point is, 3 days a month I will fast, and it's to a little bit of spirituality, discipline. Anyway, it's to just to see what happens. Now, one thing I'm very, very aware of is the fact that energy and nutrition in your life matter. So it kind of dictates how I sort of roll with it, and like guided by intuition is sort of how my life is. Like, I mean, I do a physical job. So fasting for 3 days, my biggest fear, and it hasn't happened yet, but is not eating for a day and then the next day having some huge, heavy, physical demanding thing and hitting a wall. It hasn't happened, but the last month when I did this, I went about 48 hours without food, and I knew the next day was going to be a very strenuous, long hours, lots of lifting. So what I did was I consumed vegetables because it's a deeper story, and I'm not saying I wanted to, but the why I'm doing it sort of ties into it. So I was like, okay, well, let's see. And now I still keep in mind nutrition. I still keep in mind plant defense chemicals. I still keep all that in mind, and I try and make do with what is best. So I knew I needed a lot of food. I tried to eat fermented things, sauerkraut, low sugar fruit, olives, and fermented sauerkraut. And so I made basically a big salad, extra virgin olive oil, high quality, some onions, and I put a few tomatoes in there, avocados. And I know that this is not ideal, and then I made a stir fry with like zucchini. I put a little broccoli in there. Ooh, I know I'm just handing in my card right now as we speak. But the point was to get enough food to kind of give me energy. I used extra virgin coconut oil for the fat, extra virgin olive oil, heavy on it, and avocados, mostly. So I ate, and this is what I noticed. How can you afford not to eat this much meat? Because I went to the grocery store to get maybe a day and a half worth of food in the form of vegetables, and the bill was over $70. So I looked at that and I went, not only did I have to, and here's the thing, not only did I have to prepare it all, not only did I have to prep it and get everything ready, cook it, the amount of waste from all the chopping and cutting and all that stuff was incredible. It took me about an hour and a half to make this stuff. By the end of it, I ate so much food that I was like, this is ridiculous. Now I do, when I go buy vegetables, try to get local source produce and organic, which is a little bit more expensive. So we have to bear that in mind. Anyway, the grocery bill in one day was over $70. Now I did buy a couple, some apple cider vinegar and some things that were sort of, maybe not acceptable in some realms, but it was like sauces that were, fish oil, fish sauce, and some stuff like that. So yes, it went in my cupboard, but the most of it was vegetables. Now, $70 for 1.5 meals is ridiculous. If I were to put that in the context of beef, that's probably 3 days, 4 days worth of food for me. Now, I do tend to buy grass-fed beef when I can, and get local source stuff when I can. I do the best I can within my budget, but I was blown away at how much money this costed me. And I don't know how many of you found this if you do it or not. What happens when we eat vegetables? Well, I ended up throwing away a couple things. So on the carnivore side, okay, let's just look at that $70. That is pretty much a 3-pound roast ribeye, which I can probably eat in one shot. But when you break it up into ground beef, eggs, and some sirloin steaks that are kind of on the lower thing, maybe it's some deals on special, that is 3-4 days worth of food for me. So right there, I was turned off by the fact that I had to cook, prepare, and chop, and took an hour and a half, 2 hours to make my dinner, which, nope, I don't like it. Just putting a steak in an air fryer or a cast iron pan or on a broiler, it's 10 minutes. Couple eggs, 3 minutes. Wow. So the time factor was a big deterrent. Now the prices. When you look at what I buy and how much I eat, now I'm lucky enough to eat one meal a day. Generally, it's about $20, maybe under $20. And this is Canadian, by the way. This is not any. I live in Canada, so this is the prices around Vancouver, which are kind of high. But I'm always looking for deals on meat. I'm always kind of keeping my eyes open for good sales. And I have a freezer. I have when butter goes on special, my grass-fed butter that I buy a shit ton of it, put it in the freezer. So that brings it down even more. Now, I was blown away. I get asked, how can you afford to eat that much meat? And now I pose this question, how can you afford not to? When you take in consideration, I don't have breakfast, the traditional breakfast. I don't eat cereal. I don't buy milk most of the time. When I do buy milk, I drink it right away. I don't have to get snacks. I don't have, look at the difference between a McDonald's combo. That's $15, $16 in Canada. I can buy steak for that and have just as much food. One. So when you look into, and then you have to have dinner, then you have to have, whatever you're having, snacks, blah, blah, blah. So the way I've gone about myself and the way I do things is it a traditional carnivore diet? I've made a video about that before. No, it's not. It's the way I do it. And I have found that this way of eating on the macro level is far more convenient, far less costing, and I should have documented this excursion to the grocery store, but you know what? It wasn't in the card, so now I'm just telling you about it now. And I would love it to leave me a comment and let me know if you've noticed anything like this. Like you noticed that the vegetables, I find to eat real, local, organic vegetables is more expensive. Now there is something to be said about growing your own vegetables. Different context. Everything's in context. So I myself have found the time, the money, and the cost effectiveness, let alone when I buy a whole side of beef, is astronomically cheaper than eating 3, 4, 5, 6 meals a day, supplements, all that stuff. I mean, I do supplement with electrolytes because depending on the source of my meat, I think, you know, there's probably devoid in, it's like it's lacking in some of the minerals, and electrolytes are a very big deal. And I just cover my own ass with electrolytes. That's another video. But supplement wise, I don't take anything necessarily for needing it. Sometimes I experiment with certain things, with glycine, and sometimes I've experimented with NAC and acetylcysteine. But for the most part, I eat pretty regimented, and it's so liberating. That's my opinion, and I would encourage, like I always do on this channel, is to find your own way of doing things. And I don't care what anybody says. If you feel great every day, feeling good today is probably a good indication that tomorrow you're going to feel good. You know, disease tends to manifest in a progression. And, you know, it's just, look at aging. It's the same thing. As you get older, you need to become more aware of this stuff. And that's what I'm going to say today is, how can I afford to eat meat? How can I afford not to? Leave me a comment. Let me know how you're doing. Stay strong.